Uh,
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, council. Yeah. So we bid the AJ Holloway complex, rebid it a few weeks ago. Had some successful bids. JE tally was low again. In the full scope, what we're doing, base bid is turf and infield at Little League, turf and infield at softball, adding a significant amount of parking to the complex, and we're addressing some drainage issues over at the soccer complex as well. We did elect to go with a couple alternates, one being adding parking at the soccer that's desperately needed, about 50-something spaces over there, and also replacing the fence at soccer with the black vinyl coated. So, yeah, we're going from 6 foot to 8 foot over there as well. We're looking to get started as soon as possible. The intent is to try to get, those fields, primarily Little League and softball, back open for the spring season. It's getting a little tight. We think it's doable talking with the contractor, but, we're certainly going to be at the mercy of the weather. So fingers crossed, as long as we don't have any major setbacks, I think it's doable. So is there any questions?
the drainage, I mean, how intensive is the drainage going to be? I mean, what is the net effect of that going to be for the facility out there? I know y'all analyzed that and y'all discovered some of the drainage issues, but
Yeah, so
what's going to be the end result when we fix that?
So at soccer, that's primarily the main drainage issues that's happening out there. We're going to clean out some of the outfalls into the drainage. There's been a lot of debris, vegetation that's kind of backed up that system. So we're going to clean that out, and we're going to total redo the side on the soccer field. So what we'll do is strip the old side off. We'll add a good sand and topsoil layer that's going to help those fields drain through the turf and into the existing drainage system that's there, and give it a nice, good finished turf, natural grass over there. So,
Okay. Thank you, Nick.
A question,
yep.
the natural drain, where they have the water and everything with the trees, are y'all gonna eliminate that, or that's gonna stay there?
No, that's going to stay there. Like I said, we're going to clean that up, clean it where it's more free flowing. There's been a lot over the years, vegetation and trees and just debris that's clogged those drains up, and we're gonna clean that out. So.
And we all, did you figure out what we're gonna do about the poles that are sinking in the ground?
Yeah, we had a
Poles, I mean.
yeah we had a geotech do their investigation and provide a report and recommendation, and they didn't see any issues with those poles, with the light poles. So.
Then I'm just saying, they're gonna stop sinking out there, because it's built on swamp.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's
I
the
mean,
problem,
from their investigation, they didn't see any signs that there was any issues with them sinking. So.
When we're having a pole, it's healthy up to the electrical part,
Yeah,
so now you're just gonna shut out completely.
but we took
Somehow or another, we have to stop that part there.
Yeah, we took soil borings over there, and they analyzed them and provided their recommendation. So.
I mean, those things to me need to be fixed before we do anything else to the fields or whatever. The drainage problem and the sinking of the poles. If we're only using those fields, that's something that we need to look at first before we do anything else.
Yeah, like I said, all the soccer drainage that's going to be addressed, and then the little league and softball. I think you've seen at softball how the dirt just runs off. That's all going to be
Dirt
corrected.
runs off.
It's all going to be corrected with the turf, and it's all going to percolate through the turf section into drainage piping. It's going to get out of there. So it's softball mainly. That's going to be addressed doing that.
You've probably been out there when it rains a lot through them soccer fields. That water pours off them soccer fields.
Yeah.
That comes. So I mean, that's another big issue. The little league fields are not as bad.
Yeah.
The soccer fields really bad when it rains.
Yeah, and the plan here is it's going to address that. It's going to allow that water, instead of shedding off those fields and just getting stopped up there, it's going to allow it to drain through and get to those under drainage pipes that are already there and get out. So I think cleaning out that drain, it just compounded the problem. The water was just backing up into that system. So.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. And I'm sorry I got a couple more minutes, Mr. Barrett said, but if I could ask Parks and Rec a question, and this is related once we finish the improvements out there. Do we have a fee schedule for renting those fields for practice, similar to Gulfport? Have we mapped that out yet? And then to be able to get the word out to these coaches and teams that have some interest in that, that could be a good source of income to further go into a maintenance fund.
I agree. We have a cost for tournaments per field, but that's something that we're working on with Mike, and we've talked about making a rental cost, because whoever the athletic specialist is going to be responsible for booking with coaches out there.
Okay.
We have a
Well,
lot of out-of-city teams that come out there.
sure. Okay. Well, thank you, Director. There's a lot of interest in that, and they're kind of interested. What is it going to cost, so they can build that into their budgets, as well. Thank you. That concludes my report.
All right, Mr. Guines, did you have a report?
No report.
All right, thank you. And I have no report. I do want to speak to Mike after the meeting for just a moment, and then Mr. Deming.
Can I just get Ms. Labata for 1 sec?
Yeah.
Hey, you sent us a spreadsheet of all of the different issues you're addressing, and you put some, I guess, a status bar of where they're at. Say like quote or complete.
Or
They didn't say paid. Is that the same as complete?
yeah, complete is the work is done, but we haven't paid it yet.
Okay.
So some of them, when it's complete, I go ahead and move it to the bottom just to kind of clean up the list. But yes,
Okay. That was one thing that I don't see on this list. And since the new redistricting, we used to split Pops Ferry Road where all those potholes are for the manhole covers.
Yes.
Now I'm on both sides. So I get to, lucky you. I know, I get to address these potholes independently, and they're never on here.
Okay.
What do we need to do? The worst thing we've had residents sit at that table and complain about cars creating traffic concerns because they're driving on the shoulder to not hit every one of the potholes as they go down, or they weave. I try to avoid that whole section of Pops Ferry Road altogether. But have we looked at those, or how to address elevating those potholes to be flush with the street?
we haven't looked at it, but I will add it to the list, and we'll get somebody out there. It's probably just some base repairs. We probably just need to do some excavation, redo the base, and then repave. But we'll take a look at it. I'll put it on the list, and we'll take a look at it.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that all?
That's it.
All right, that concludes our council reports. We'll now move to the public agenda, citizen comments. We'll have a total allotted time of 45 minutes. Each resident gets 3 minutes to speak. When you come forward, please sign the sheet, put your name and address, and then give us your name and address. Tell us your name and address as well. We'll start on my left side and your right side. Does anyone on my left side, your right, want to speak? Anyone on my left, your right? All right. Anyone on my right, your left? Come forward.
I'm Sonia Murray. I live at 407 Oak Lawn Place. I believe there is a hearing about the house across the street from me at 408. The grass is 30 inches high, and it's been 30 inches high for a long time. Finally, one of the neighbors takes pity and cuts it, but this has gone on and on and on. The house was termite infested and rotten. It flooded in Katrina. It should have been removed at that time, but instead it was rehabbed. But I don't think there is anything you can do about that. But could you please get the grass cut once a month? Please? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else on my right, your left? My right, your left. Anyone in the back of the room? Anyone anywhere? All right. That citizens' comments are closed. We'll now move to the policy agenda. Item A.
Ordinance to amend the Biloxi Land Development Ordinance, specifically to amend the text related to social services, soup kitchens, and multifamily dwelling within Article 23-10, definitions and interpretations, Table 23-4-1C, use table, non-residential and planned development districts, use standards, Section 2343C3C, and Article 23-4 use standards, Section 23-4-3C1B.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a first and second. That's a first reading, so we'll have discussion on that at the next meeting. Item B.
Ordinance to approve a zoning map amendment to authorize a change in zoning district classification for two parcels of land from their present zoning district classification of NB Neighborhood Business and RER Residential Estate Restricted to RB Regional Business, presently identified as 13041 Lorraine Road, and an unaddressed parcel situated behind the above-mentioned parcel.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All right, that's also a first reading. All right, we'll move to item C.
Ordinance to grant a zoning map amendment for the establishment of a PD1 Plan Development Infill, sorry, that's I, not one, master plan extending authorization for a residential development to be known as the Cottages at Howard.
I'll move that.
I'll second.
All right, that's already been moved and seconded. Let me see who did that. No, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor, would you quit touching things over there?
I'm
please?
sorry. That is a first reading.
first
My
reading.
apologies. So, Mr. Lawrence made the motion, Mr. Guines seconded, and that's also first reading, so we'll move to item D.
Ordinance amending sections 10.5-2-1 and 10.5-2-2 of the Code of Ordinances relating to the berthing rates charged by the City of Biloxi for the Small Craft Harbor, Point Cadet Marina, Sherman v. Canaan Back Bay Fishing Dock, and the Biloxi Commercial Fishing Dock.
I'll move that.
All right, that was moved last week by Mr. Lawrence and seconded by Mr. Guines. Discussion?
Peter, you can explain what you changed in here?
These are the rates for charter boats and for special event such as the Billfish Tournament. I think it's been at $3 for 7, 8 years. I think it used to be 4, it went down to 3, and we're just moving it back to $4 a foot. Billfish, for a long time, Bobby Carter's indicated our rate was much lower than what these guys were expecting, so we're raising that 50 cents a foot.
And what about the steel hulls? The ones on Sherman Canaan? Is any, you have that listed, you adjusted those or not?
That would go from 3 to 4 as well.
Say again?
That would go from 3 to 4 at Sherman Canaan.
All right. So that's $1 a foot more. And you said, it's, what is the commercial? You changed it to what? The one that's a small craft harbor.
I don't think commercial has changed. I know transient was going from 50 cents to $1. And with special events, it was increasing by 50 cents.
And then $1 on the steel hulls.
Yeah, on Sherman Canyon, and what about the commercial at Hard Rock? Same thing. Same as Sherman Canyon.
That's still, talking about the big 100-footers. There's 32 of them in there.
On the bay.
We're talking about our commercial fishermen? Is that what we're talking about?
My understanding is that at Sherman Canaan, the commercial slips monthly fees will increase from $3 to $4 times the overall length of the boat, and the transient commercial slips will increase from 50 cents to $1 per linear foot per day. That's for Sherman Canaan. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Okay, and then for Point Cadet and the small craft harbor, the charter boat berth slip fee increases from $3 to $4 per foot per month. And tournament and special events berth slip fee increases from $2.50 to $3 per foot per day. Is that accurate?
Yes.
So that's both of them together in this measure that we're voting on. That's pretty much it. Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other discussion?
Go ahead. So what,
I'm just, I know you
Go
have the
ahead.
floor, but
go ahead,
I'm just having a problem with the commercial.
right.
They struggle so much with their expenses, their price of shrimp and everything, and to tax them, I know they got big boats and they think they got big dollars, but they don't. And so I'm having a little bit of problem taxing these commercial fishermen that struggle so much with the spillways affecting seafood and the imported shrimp and seafood affecting their way of life. I'm having, a problem trying to squeeze them down a little further. So that's just my 2 cents.
Go ahead.
I kind of fall in line with Mr. Glavin, but I don't know that it's exactly for the same reason. I just look at the numbers themselves, and these are rents. And so we're talking about the charter boat rent going up by 33%. Imagine if your rent went up by 33%. It looks simple when it's on the piece of paper because it's going from $3 to $4, but it's multiplied by the entire distance of the slip, which is a much larger number. But transient rent goes up 50%. Now, that may be a better argument because they're transient, right? But our charter businesses serve the greater Biloxi marketplace. So I can't support a 33% increase on the charter boats. I really don't feel like a 50% increase on the rents for berthing slips for transients is appropriate either. I'll yield the floor.
All right. Mr. Gines, anything? No.
Fine.
Ms. Newman? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, these, making no noise. My hands are up. Well, even with the rates, we're still very competitive as compared to other places. I think, we're in a service, if you don't run a few people off because of rates, you're not charging enough. We haven't run a lot of folks off. We're still competitive in every flavor of slippage. Those expenses that we have every day, utilities, and the ability to service these folks is something needed to be done. I think that was our blast on still be competitive and still have the best harbors and service we can. We thought that was reasonable. These rates were reasonable. You got to compare it to other places, up and down.
Mayor, do we have a comparison table that shows our rates compared to who we're?
I think we do.
Okay.
I haven't really.
I haven't seen that. That's why it's hard for me to.
No, we're still
I'm taking
just
you
like
for your word.
in every flavor of things you're going to be considering with regard to utilities and garbage fees and the garbage collection at these harbors go up, and it's a big thing. People complain about where's the trash go, and that those expenses go up every year and significantly. And the same thing with garbage. The what's on your table too to consider the garbage fees that we're going to be asking to pass on to the citizens. I mean, we've got to be not donating these services, and I think this is a blast at being reasonable and still being competitive and having the very best bang for the buck.
I'd like the council consider tabling this for 1 week or one meeting, and maybe the councilman in this that's more affected by this in the harbors can get with the mayor's office, review the comparisons, and come back with a suggestion or some additional input.
That's fine. I think it's pretty tough to go up $1 a foot. It's everybody thinks they're making a ton of money, but there's a lot of problems. And I don't know why did y'all come up with $1 a foot anyway? Who come up with that? Increase it.
improvement of the harbors and some of the things we're doing. I mean, it's reasonable, and we're still below a lot of other folks. And if you want to, take a look at that in particular, if you want to choose a table, we're just saying we're still competitive, and our cost to operate those harbors go up every day. We've had 20 and 30% of things that we've had to do, and this is not an outrageous ask.
Yeah.
I don't believe it's an outrageous ask, but if we could just get the administration to give us a little bit more info, data, instead of saying we're going up $1 and it's more competitive. And I don't dispute what you're saying, Mayor, one bit, but I'd be more comfortable reviewing that information before I issue my vote.
Mr. Gines, you had something?
Yeah, if I heard correctly, we were already up there, and we brought it down because of COVID and other things that happened, the oil spill. Now we're just adjusting it back pretty much to where we were. Is that what I'm hearing? Thank you.
Mr. Demme?
I'm just going to ask if you would add a couple things to that chart of comparison rates. If you'd also include amenities. What makes us competitive isn't just the rates that we charge, but it's also the amenities that we provide versus what other harbors and cities provide in comparison to their rates. That's all.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with harbors or the amenities that they provide, so I'll need your assistance on that. Thank you.
All right, second.
So we have a first motion. Is there a second for that motion?
A second.
Okay, is there any more discussion? Okay, so we're making a motion to table this for 1 week and asking for the administration to provide some information to us. Okay, so all in favor of the motion? All right, 7-0. So that next meeting will be August 1st. This will be back on the agenda August 1st. Okay, we'll now move to item E. And this was moved by Dr. Tisdale, second by Mr. Deming. Discussion? Oh, I'm sorry.
Ordinance to amend Section 16-1-2 pertaining to the purchase of a firearm by retired officers and next of kin for officers killed in the line of duty.
All right, moved by Mr. Tisdale, second by Mr. Deming.
Yeah, I think we already have an ordinance on the books, and this amends that ordinance so that the next of kin of the law enforcement officer could purchase his weapon, and that a fair market price for that purchase is determined by the chief of police and then approved by the council. Is that the extent of the change, Mr. Abine?
Yeah, actually, you go ahead, Chief.
So in past years, a retiring officer could purchase his weapon for $25. That's the change that's taken place. It's now fair market value determined by me and approved by you folks. So the only way I can figure out what fair market value of a used gun is I'll probably get 2 or 3 quotes from gun dealers and then go with the average of the gun. So that's the only way I can think of to do it.
Yeah, those price quotes would be for new weapons or used weapons?
We would try to quote it for a used weapon. If
Check with those pawn shops, huh?
Right.
Okay. Thank you. That's all.
Yeah, and basically there was no provision for a state officer to purchase their gun. So this is a legislative change that was effective July 1st. And they just added a fair market value rate. So it made our $25 rate obsolete.
Okay, thank you. No comment.
Any other discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Now move to item F.
Resolution granting final subdivision plat approval for a 66-lot, single-family residential subdivision for Anchors Landing subdivision for property presently identified as 820 Camp Wilkes Road.
Second.
All right, we have a first by Mr. Deming, a second by Mr. Glavin. Any discussion?
Jerry, would you give me some info here.
Yes, sir. I think the question had to do with the drainage on this site.
Correct.
Prior to development, it was, we had some complaints from some neighbors about the runoff on the property. Well, the reason there was a lot of runoff and neighbors' concerns is because this property had never had an engineering study done on it, and the water was undisciplined. So what happened as the developer developed the property, they installed a large detention pond. It also has a large area of wetlands, and all of the runoff now is being controlled and sent to the detention pond, and then it falls into the normal drainage system. So I believe you'll see improvement for all the neighbors around here. Whenever a subdivision is installing infrastructure like this one has, and the infrastructure is in, we get a letter from our engineering department that says that they're satisfied that everything was done according to what was approved. We got that email from Robert Smith last week, and we've checked the subdivision and it's ready to go.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. The developer's not only providing a development that doesn't increase the amount of water in the area, but it's actually going to reduce it for some of the streets. I think it's picking up the water from some of the adjoining streets like T Street.
Yes, sir, it could. The drainage system is put in to pick up the water that's falling on the streets and dump it over into the control system that we're talking about, which all comes down to that southwest corner into the detention pond. And essentially what the engineering department is supposed to verify is that their after development runoff does not exceed their pre-development runoff. They're not required to solve drainage problems on properties around them, but many times we find out that they actually do, that it takes that water and controls it.
Those that looks like it may actually assist in some of the drainage problems with the adjoining developments. Okay.
I have a question, Jerry.
Yes, sir.
Isn't this the same property that they had, there's too many houses, the buildable land is not enough for 66 homes? Without the water retention, the runoff, the swamps, whatever you want to call it, because that property's been empty for hundreds of years, and nobody built on it for those reasons. Now you put 66 homes in there.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, they're going to fit, or we just jacking in too many homes again?
Well, I mean, people argue that there's too many houses on here, but they designed it to comply with the zoning that was on the property. This is, I believe, RS 7.5, and the lots that they have on there are the 7,500 square feet. So they're in compliance with the zoning that was on the property. And when this came through before for the preliminary plat approval, the Planning Commission and the council approved it, which gave them the authorization to go out and develop this property. So now the infrastructure's in, they're ready to go. The next step is to come back to the council for final plat approval, and that's what's before you today.
Well, the site plan and everything has to take care of all the problems they have with the water, right? The drainage?
Yes, sir.
Have you received anything like that yet from them?
From our engineering department.
Yeah.
From our engineering department who inspected this as it went through. We get a letter after the infrastructure's in, including the detention pond, that says that everything here was done exactly as it was designed. And so once that comes in, that's our authorization in our department to get it back on the council agenda for y'all to vote to approve it.
Yeah, but that's gets my question back to you. We've done it before in Woolmarket and it still floods. We all say they've done it right and they did the site and all that, but it still floods. Then whose problem is that? The city's problem.
Okay.
And sometimes we overbuilding these pieces of property. But 6 or 7 houses, I know that's more money for them, but then we have the problem later on. It's the city's problem. Then it's their flooding, and we have to take care of that. So anyway, that was always a question they brought up, with these 66 homes on this lot.
Yep. I got a question.
Okay.
Director, once this development is complete, who is responsible for the maintaining of the pond, the detention pond, on a periodic basis? If it silts in or if there's grass that overgrows around it, who is responsible for that?
We require the developer to put on the approved plat that the homeowners association will be responsible for the maintenance of the detention pond. In the event that they decide not to form a homeowners association, then the entire subdivision becomes the homeowners association. So we would charge them with, we've had to do that in some others, and some of the neighbors got together and came down and cleaned out the detention ponds.
Okay, thank you, Director.
Any other discussion? All right, call for the question. All in favor? 7-0. We'll now move to item G.
Resolution for notice of intent to amend section 9-1-22A of the Code of Ordinances pertaining to garbage collection and disposal fees.
Do I have a
I'll
motion?
move that.
Second?
I'll second it for discussion purposes.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Guines and a second by Mr. Tisdale.
Yes, Peter, could you, is this that natural increase that we are doing on a regular basis?
On the garbage fee, we received the amount of increase from the HCUA 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And it's a pure pass-through of what the city's component would be with an increase of $7, bringing it to $24 total. I think looking around, Gulfport will be at $35 a month total. Ocean Springs, we think, will be north of $30. So,
I think we recommended $23.75, increase from 17.
right.
From 17 to $23.
And even with the increase, we're below our neighboring cities.
Yeah, and it's a pure pass-through, and this is just the notice of intent. It's not the increase yet, which would be, we have to advertise 3 times, so we kind of have to get things in place before October 1st, which is when we're going to be billed the higher rate. And it wouldn't take effect until October 1st.
And I thought I believe we also had a plan where we were going to do some gradual increases. We talked about 2 or 3 years ago.
For the water, I think, right.
On the water, go
For
ahead.
the water, I think that's the last step of the four-step process that we come this.
Right, and we're still going forth with that process. Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other
So
discussion?
what is the plus increase from what it is now?
17 to 23.75.
So it's $6.75 increase,
Yep.
and that's what they charging us, or what? Or what?
Yeah, a little bit less than 75, but it's 23.75 gives us about 12 cents. On top of what we actually are charged, based on the existing house count. So we have, if we grow, 200 or 300 homes, we're still going to be paying to the utility authority the 14,300, 460 number, what we're going to pay them. So we got a little bit of margin in there. So that's why we factored in that number.
So you say you have to do this 3 times before you can pass it?
By law, we have to run it in the newspaper for 3 weeks consecutive. This is a notice of intent to do that. Now we've got to run it 3 times, three times in a newspaper. Then it comes back to the council for a final vote.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Tisdale?
Yeah, so if my calculations are correct, and they may not be, so everybody out there, check me. You have a calculator on your phone. So currently, residents pay $16.83 a can. Times 12 months, that's per month, per can, times 12 months. And then to see what that grand total is, you multiply that by the number of homes, which is 14,486. And the magic number I come up with, this is what we're currently paying to the Harrison County Utility Authority.
Paying, that's right.
That's right.
Citizens are paying $17.
Okay, so that's a little light because there was an administrative fee in there, right? Okay, I haven't included that, so it's, But anyway, that total comes to a little less than $3 million, 2.925, $2,925,592. But we hadn't included that 17 cents. We can come back to that later. It's almost beside the point. If we approve this new rate at $23.41, and that doesn't include an administrative increase, does it? That's just per can per month. At $23.41 times 12 months times the number of homes again, and that grand total is $4,069,407. Now the difference is, which would be what we would pay to the utility authority, is the difference between those two figures, which is $1,143,815. That make sense? I mean, roughly in looking at it, yeah, our increase is roughly, give or take a few percentage points, a 25% increase, and that looks about right. We're paying roughly $3 million. This would be 1.1, almost, yeah, $1,150,000. My point being, if this measure is not approved by the council, we're still paying that $4,069,000, but somebody's got to pay that $1.1 million, correct?
That would be a donation.
And that's the only reason I mention this in doing the numbers, is that it's a pass-through cost. The utility authority negotiates and has come up with this figure on behalf of the cities that belong to the utility authority, and not all the cities in Harrison County belong to the utility authority, at least for garbage purposes, correct? Except for one. So, that being the case, we're talking about an increase in payments to the utility authority of roughly almost 1.2 million. Would that be accurate, Mr. Leonard?
My calculator, I'd have to say it
Okay.
sounds close.
Okay, so so this literally is $1 million question, right? I just want to make that point for those who may be reticent to support this measure. The utility authority's going to charge us something, and this is the rate they're going to charge us. It's just a question of who's going to pay for it, right? Right?
The only option you have, Councilman, is to supplement it from the general fund,
Exactly, which means,
which is not legal.
From the fund balance, and it's an enterprise account, not fund balance in general fund, but it's got to come from someplace.
okay, so the utility authority, we pay the utility authority out of one of the proprietary accounts that would,
Absolutely, for garbage, it is in the general fund.
yeah, it is. It's not a proprietary account, so we could pay for it out of the general fund.
We do.
Right, so should this measure not pass, we now have $1 million to budget coming out of the general fund, less for other projects in the city. That would be accurate, Mr. Mayor? I think I'm accurate in stating that. Okay. Thank you. That concludes my comments.
Mr. Deming?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mike, what one city's not in doesn't participate?
Gulfport.
The largest city, right?
Correct.
Fair to say that? And so when you say this is the only option, is that fair to say? If the largest city isn't participating, why should we? Further, well, hold on, Mr. Mayor. Further, I think Gulfport gets 2 days a week service and they pay $35. So if we were treated fairly by this waste removal system, we should be paying $17.50 based off of those actuary charts, right? If we're only getting 1 day service. So we're paying $24, or we're gonna be paying $24 for 1 day service, while the city that has chose not to opt in gets to pay $17.50 per 1 day service.
May it please the court, I'd like to respond. They do not have debris removal in Gulfport under this situation. We do.
So we're paying $7.50 more per household for debris removal.
We're paying $17 for the debris removal, which has been an issue for those folks except for us with Pelican Waste, and that there's some.
What's the rate of tonnage versus waste that we remove with debris removal? Because I would assume that it's de minimis when you talk about a ratio of how much debris is removed versus how much. But if the price is $7 versus 17, you're talking about a 40% upcharge for probably 5% the tonnage and removal.
Well, it's a valuable service there for when you need it. If you're doing something around your house, it's a valuable thing, and it's pretty incredible. The job that has been done by Pelican Waste in storms and some of these other blows that might be classified as storms, but that's a valuable component of this garbage collection fee. And in my opinion, I've used it, and a lot of folks that do use it appreciate it. So it's not apples to apples, is what I'm trying to say.
I have a question, I thought we signed a contract already. Why is this a change
This is
now?
This is a new year, a new 6-year contract. This is the last year of what was going on before. Now this is a new one, and everybody's facing a new one. Gulfport's going to be facing the same thing. I don't know if it's this year or not, but all the other, municipalities are having the same ball game.
This is a 1-year contract? Or
6-year
six?
This is a 6-year contract.
And they said the increase is what, the personnel will cause the increase?
Landfill. They got to bring this stuff somewhere. Landfill is a big part of this deal.
Landfill.
Transportation is a big part of this deal. Capital that they have to do to maintain trucks and the bins, RFIDs on each bin, and they can pretty much prove if somebody thinks they're heading getting picked up. There's some technology even in the containers that we have. Also, recycling, which has increased about 35%. So, when you dig in, it's reasonable, and we're most reasonable of everyone, as far as comparable.
And we'll have the same contract that we have now?
Yeah, same folks won the award, that's right. Same can. And, I think the one upgrade that we understood, the recycled cans will be, as they roll off, they'll get new ones at the same size as the ones you have as the brown cans. So they're going to increase it in size. That was the suggestion, that as they're replaced and new ones come on board, they'll have bigger recycling component as far as the can.
Yeah, 'cause we went through about 2 years, a lot of trouble with them, but we have now, until they straightened everything out, because they kind of quit picking everything up, was complaining it was too big, too little. And where did that come from, these sizes? They won't pick up anything more than 6, 8.
No, that's debris removal. I'm talking about the recycling can is what.
You're talking about just the recycling?
Recycling can that sits alongside
Okay.
your garbage.
That's the $23.75.
Yes, that's all, that's right. Whole
roughly.
package.
Package is $23.75. The whole package, garbage, recycling, trash. Those three components are collected. And then there's the cost for the landfill to dispose of everything. All that adds up on our 16,000, or our 14,000 houses to the amount that we're paying the utility authority.
So it looks like we ought to buy land, the landfill.
Well, that's
More money doing
easier
landfill.
said than done. The county has to.
That's a good way to make money.
Well, the counties have, within the utility authority, that's going to be the next challenge, for Waste Pro and Waste Management, and, because they maintain that situation, and the leachate and all that stuff that has to be trucked to Arkansas to dispose of. I don't think we want to be in the landfill business, and I think that's the consensus of the people on the utility authority. So the commercialization and let them manage that stuff and everything that goes along with it is I think the wisest course to take. When you start comparison Harrison County to Jackson County to Hancock County to these other ones, I think we're in a favorable position. But it's a big challenge. It's a dollar intensive.
Mr. Deming, you still have the floor.
I don't need to say anything else. I think he co-opted the entire discussion. Maybe one last question that I get from every resident in my ward every year is, how much longer are we going to be part of the Harrison County Utility Authority? Or how much longer are we compelled to be part of the utility authority?
Well, at the point in time when the utility authority was formed, they were getting ready to stop every permit in Harrison County until you had a unified attack on disposal and, in the right way without the, and that's been what, since the 80s? And over the years, I think our debt right now, which we just refinanced to some unbelievable, anyway, bottom line, we probably got,
Million, I think, something like that.
yeah, our part of the deal. Now, again, Biloxi and Gulfport together represent 80-something% of the whole operation of, the wastewater treatment systems, and that, I know our options, there has to be a unified way to handle this business within Harrison County. There may be some opportunities to do your own thing or couple it with some other folks, but that's premature. Now, when Gulfport pulled away, and our lawyer will give us some updates, that represented, less business for the people who are picking up the trash. So therefore, our rates were different. But Gulfport in, with the utility authority are out. And there was a lawsuit that we wound up winning because they pulled out without a year indication that, hey, we don't want to be part of this. So, and I think we're still collecting a little bit of that component. The remaining folks within the utility authority said, we would have gotten a better price had we known you were going to pull out. The volume is where the rates were determined. So there's about 70, I'm not sure how much it was a month, but that was an impact. Gulfport pulling out increased our rates.
Yeah, I don't know that, all that's been resolved, but I think they stayed with the existing Waste Pro with older trucks. They don't have an option to get a once a week. They're in for twice a week. They're in for $35, their next one. I think we did look at some preliminary pricing of how would it be if we did go off and looked at this independently without the rest of the county. Given the distance from our locations to where the landfill is, which is up north of Minge Avenue, we would not have really recognized or realized any superior cost advantage. It's just what's driving this cost is the original price was done 6 years ago, and since that time we've had obvious inflation for several years, and everything is more, and impact fees at the landfill are more based on new fees that the government has put on the landfill. So, I think when Gulfport put this out to bid, their costs went from 21 a month to 35 a month. And they don't have the option to go to once a week either. So they're in for 35, period.
All right. Any other discussion? All right, I would, when was this new contract done?
It was awarded this last 3 months ago.
And so we're with Pelican Waste for another 6 years.
And waste.
And so I know Peter just said all these factors that's involved, but we're being charged this by HCUA, but Pelican and who's the garbage company? Is it Waste Management? Waste Management. So their price per pickup or whatever went up significantly to the tune of 28%.
Right.
Is about what we're looking at. From what we were paying, this is a 28% increase.
Yeah. Right. 2341.
It was.
Yeah, it's 28%. I mean, it may be 28 point something or 27.9, but it's basically a 28% increase over what our residents were paying before. And whenever this went out to bid, were there multiple companies that bid? And was this a lowest bid thing, or is this the best package deal? This was the lowest bid.
Well, again, the people who are collecting it also have the landfill. So, I mean, two different entities. Okay. They're bringing it to that landfill.
Okay. So one other question. Have we ever looked at one of the, go ahead, I'm sorry.
If Waste Pro, just to use the name, would have won the bid, they would have increased, they've got to pay Waste Management to put put the garbage there. So, I mean, there's some economies there, with waste management, having both, operating the landfill as well as, the garbage collection.
Okay. One of the people who really have an issue with this are our seniors. I spoke at a large group of seniors last week, and this is one of the things that was brought up. They said, when you're bringing home $700, $800, $900 a month, this makes a difference. And that was before we were aware of this increase. We didn't know about this until Thursday when the agenda come out. Have we ever looked at some type of deal to where we subsidize this just for our seniors? Or is that something we could possibly look at just to see what the price tag on that would be? Because I can understand that struggle. When you're on a fixed budget, this can make a difference. Is this something that we could possibly look at just to see what the price tag on that would be?
Well, bottom line is the bottom line. From our 1683 to 2441 is what we're going to choke down some kind of way. Okay. If there's some other program that will, again, based on component per household, I'm not aware of any action we can take about that. I understand, $4 or $5 a month could impact a lot of folks.
Okay. All right. That's all I have. Any other discussion? All right.
Yep.
No more discussion. I'll call for the question. All in favor?
I don't know.
All right. Hands back up, please. All in favor? All right. George, okay. All opposed? Okay, so we have 5-2, myself and Mr. Deming in opposition. All right, we'll now move to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
The move.
Second.
All right, first by Mr. Lawrence, second by Mr. Tisdale. Mr. Lawrence? You're on the 30-second clock again.
Yeah, I know we had a little discussion earlier, the mayor on the sports complex. So what's actually on the table right now for us to do with the sports complex? What is the first thing we're gonna look at? We talked about the drainage. So what is the first thing we're getting ready to do?
We do it all, doing everything.
And what are the costs we spending right now?
Yes. So the total cost, including base bid and the two alternates we selected, the parking at soccer and then upgrading the fence, we're at $5,166,818.50. So just under 5.2 million.
And so what is, like we talked about the drainage, the problem we're having, so.
To do it so we can free our, youth baseball and softball and soccer. When we're going to start working?
Yeah.
What's the phases you're running through?
The first thing we're going to do is attack the Little League and softball fields. We're going to try to get them open by next spring. That's the main thing we're going to do first. And then we're going to, after the new year, after Christmas, January 1, they're going to hop over and attack the soccer fields. So
soccer will be over.
Yeah, so that'll allow them to play football, get football and soccer season in this fall, and then once that's complete, we'll open up soccer for the contractor to get over there January 1st.
And then putting the turf on the Little League fields?
Yeah, on the infield.
Who's going to, we have to hire somebody to who's going to maintain that for us? Because it takes certain equipment to do that.
Yeah, the equipment.
Not set up for that, so.
Yeah, the equipment.
That's going to cost us.
The equipment doesn't cost anything. It comes with this bid package. The turf company supplies the piece of equipment that's used to maintain the turf fields. And there's a full, after it's complete, the turf company gives a full rundown to the Parks and Recs team of how to properly maintain it going forward. So.
I don't know, just like to me, the drainage, all the other stuff ought to be done first before we ever do put turf on the field, to me. That's the most important thing, to get the complex itself ready for what you're gonna do.
The drainage problem is on the soccer field first.
Yeah, based on our, analysis of it, the main issue with the drainage is at the soccer field. what, the softball, there's really, not really a drainage problem unless,
It runs off.
runs off. So this is gonna solve that issue. And then Little League is, it just holds water in the infield, in the dirt areas. And going to turf is gonna, solve that issue, so.
Okay. And, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, well, I'll ask them later. It has nothing to do with the engineering portion. Thank you.
On, Peter, on F, you said you're not changing, but this is a time thing?
Yeah, we're extending it another 2 months. You can see they're in the process of doing punch list items, and their deadline to get a CO was the end of this month. So we're extending that, I think, 2 more months.
And they put a restaurant in the middle of that?
They're gonna have a cafe. They've got a new sign up. It's called the Paddle Wheel Cafe or something to that effect. But there's a new signage that just went up, and the cafe will be inside. I think they'll still utilize the drive-through as well for pickups.
Yeah, how long the drive, that's a separate contract, isn't it? The drive-through for the bank part?
Yeah, the
That's,
bank,
that's gonna be there, or that's gonna go away? And
the ATM is staying there. It's being upgraded. You can see they've got a new facade around the ATM. Apparently, that's a very popular ATM with Wells Fargo, so they're renting that space and keeping that ATM there in the back of the building.
All right. I think that's it.
All right. Mr. Guines?
None.
Ms. Newman? Mr. Deming? Tisdale?
Yeah, a couple of things. On the sports complex, I remember that we had passed a bond. Do you remember what bond series that was for Holloway Sports Complex and a few other projects we were going to do?
22 bond.
2022
bond.
2022,
Thank you. And how much was that bond for?
17.
Okay. All right, and then, let's see, the tennis courts that are going to be demolished at Hiller Park, outstanding. Are there any plans to put anything in its place? Some folks were asking me, I said, I have no idea. Their primary interest was the number of tennis courts south of the bay. I know we have one at Porter. I don't know what other ones we have south of the bay. I don't know if that's what we want to do. That I don't know if there are any plans. May not be any plans at this point, but
Thoughts,
thoughts and prayers.
and prayers too.
Okay.
But, yeah, certainly improvements to Hiller Park is on our radar.
So nothing at this time.
Nothing that we can share.
I'll just comment real quick. For years, I told Sherry and the administration, if you're not going to do anything with the tennis courts, that we need to demolish them because they're a hazard. So finally, that's getting done. I think that's great. Sherry mentioned maybe some landscaping till we figure it out because, obviously it's an eyesore now and maybe a picnic area. Well, we don't know.
Okay. That's good. That's all. Thank you. That's it.
Mr. Glavine?
I have nothing.
I have nothing. So I'll call for the question. All in favor of the consent agenda? 7-0. Are there any exceptions? Anyone have any exceptions? All right, no exceptions. We'll now move to code enforcement hearings. Mr. Creel?
Item A on the agenda, Flavia Roca Roja La Matina, 321 Benaki Avenue. This property is still in violation.
Hey, Jerry, the name's longer than the property.
Is there anyone here to speak on behalf or against Flavia Roca La Matina?
Good job, Nathan.
All right. If not, this case is closed. Next item.
Item B, HL&C Companies LLC, 438 Heidenham Avenue. That case has been resolved. Item C, Johnny J. Hakeem, 408 Oaklawn Place. This is one that was mentioned earlier in the meeting. That property is still in violation.
Is there anyone here to speak on behalf or against Johnny Hakeem?
Is that the property, Jerry, she was talking about?
Yes, sir. Mhm.
Okay.
All right, if no one's here to speak on that case, this case is closed. Next item.
Item D, Michael Clark Hester, 2592 Old Bay Road. This property is still in violation.
All right. Mr. Hester, if you want to come speak, please sign in and state your name and address. And this is tomorrow.
Oh, really?
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Hester. I live at 2592 Old Bay Road, where I've been since 1983. First time I've been in this building. It's my understanding that I'm here to be informed of some violation I have. I'm not certain. Is there anyone that can tell me what it is I have not done or I'm supposed to do that I'm not doing?
Is that on, you have it on the screen, Jerry?
Jerry, where on Old Bay is this? Is trying to identify whose ward this is.
I'm thinking it's most of Old Bay Road is in my ward, and I'm thinking,
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, sir. It's next to the trailer park. My lot
okay.
is immediately adjacent to.
So at the north end of Big Lake Road, which is the west end of Old Bay, you've got a series of apartments, and then to the east of that, you've got a property with several mobile homes on it, and then this is the property east of that?
That's correct. It's contiguous to that property. My property is approximately 77 feet wide and approximately 800 feet long, extending from Old Bay Road to the water.
Right, and what has to be done to bring this property, Jared, do you know, into compliance?
Well, I mean, as the pictures show, it's overgrown, a lot of trash is there. Got a picture in there that shows a lot next to it that shows that it's well maintained.
So basically, any trash or litter would have to be picked up, and the grass would have to be mowed. That's pretty much it. Mr. Hester, if you were given an additional 30 days, could you take care of that?
I examined the fence from the neighbor's side yesterday, and I accept full responsibility for that. I was unable to do it myself, which I like to do everything myself, but the
Yes,
person that did a horrible job. It's dangerous. He used nails that about, if you can see the cross pieces, the nails extend maybe 2 inches outside of the cross piece. I'll simply tear all that down. I can do that in 30 days. One other thing I'd like to ask you about, sir, is you mentioned mowing. Having been there since 1983, it was not until a few years ago when I got a new neighbor that I mowed for the first time. You know, I kept this property natural all the way to Big Lake. I liked it that way. I prefer it that way. But my neighbor, who came from California, married a girl from Petal, complained that his wife was scared of snakes and would I mind mowing. Well, actually, he volunteered to mow it.
Yes, sir.
And that he would maintain it. So he mows it. He mows it about 2 or 3 more times, and he quit. So, you know, I had to hire somebody to do it, which I don't have the money or the equipment to do that.
Right.
And I'd like to let it go back natural like it was. And I see no reason not to allow me to do that, and I'm making that request now.
If I recall this correctly, along Old Bay Road, there's a drive that where you turn into your property. Is there a wire fence or a privacy fence?
There is a wire fence and there is a privacy fence on the west side between my home and the trailers.
Yes, sir, and it's heavily treed, as I recall, when you first pull off. I mean, I walked by there for years.
Yes, sir.
That's why I didn't recognize the property. It's a beautiful piece of property. All you see is trees in the front. I mean, other than that, and these pictures were taken, do you know, Mr. Creel, if these pictures were taken from a neighbor's yard or?
Yes, sir. They appeared, I didn't take them, but I checked on it yesterday because I talked to a young lady that, I think sent me a couple notices, and she informed me about the fence, and I went around there, and she's absolutely correct. I accept full responsibility for that fence. It's dangerous. I'll take it down.
All right, so within 30 days, you could take the fence down?
Absolutely.
Okay. Could we do this, Mr. Creel? If he can get the fence down in 30 days, then we'll look to see what the next step is after that. That'd be doable, so I would make a motion that we give Mr. excuse me, Mr. Hester 30 days, and that Mr. Creel can reassess the situation after 30 days.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a first and second. All in favor? All right, you have 30 days. First was, yes, Tisdale motion, second Lawrence. All right, thank you. You have 30 days to correct the fence. Thank you.
Pleasure.
All right, next item.
Item E, Kelly May Lee Lou, 340 Hiller Drive. This property's still in violation.
What's the issue?
You may not be able to see it, but it's overgrown, and there are construction materials that have been thrown out of the house. It looks like somebody went in and gutted the house and set it out beside the tree there in the front.
Okay.
Mr. Creel, go ahead.
Go ahead. You go ahead, I'm sorry.
Is this property owner's, my memory isn't what it used to be perhaps, but have we dealt with this property owner before or no?
We may have. This is not the same Miss Lou that we deal with on a regular basis.
Different person.
Yes, sir, it
Okay,
is.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone here to speak on behalf or against Kelly Lou? All right, if not, this case is closed. Next item.
All right. Item F, Helen J. H. Mikovich, 11415 Quint Place. This property is still in violation.
Excuse me. This is my mother's property. I take care of everything. It was a misunderstanding, I think, with the plan. I mean, the department. Anyway, we misunderstood, and there was some mail. We had discussed a couple of things with the, I think it was Mrs. Elizabeth. I'm not quite sure, but we did take care of some items they had problems with. And then, as what happened was, we ended up with another issue on the side of the house. I'll just tell you that she told me my neighbor, because of inconsistency problems with getting along, keeps calling the city and wanting to bark on everything. So basically, from my understanding, talking to her today, there was a couple of violations she needed me to take care of, and she wanted me to talk to Mr. Jerry Krill and get on board with him and then work it out.
Sir, what is your name?
I'm Jonathan Mikovich.
Okay. And how much time do you need to fix the violations?
I think we could do it in the next 30 days to 2 weeks.
I'd like to request 30 days.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a first by Mr. Glavin, second by Mr. Lawrence. All in favor? All right.
Okay, great.
30-day extension.
Get it all straightened out.
Tell Miss Helen we wish her the best.
Item G.
Item G, An and Tro Nguyen et al., 364 Cruces Street. That case has been resolved. Item H, Julia Nieto Gomez, 9066 North Oak Lawn Road. This property is still in violation.
All right. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf or against Julia Gomez? Anyone here to speak on behalf or against Julia Gomez? If not, this case is closed. We will now move to the routine agenda. Do I have a motion?
So move.
We have a first by Mr. Tisdale, a second by Mr. Lawrence. Discussion?
Is Walt still here? Oh, we did better than last week. We did a little dance last week, holding checks and that, so where we at this week?
Let's see, council, good afternoon. The next round of funding that we will receive from MEMA is estimated at $951,000. It's not in the system yet. After we make our payments today to the contractors, MEMA will start processing the next round of funds, but the next round is $951,000.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, any other discussion? All right, I'll call for the question. All in favor? 7-0 on the routine agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Second.
Who first? Dr. Tisdale made the motion, second by Mr. Glavin. All in favor? 7-0. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and we'll be back for our budget meeting. I just figured out what you're doing.